All right, all right, all right. 7 pages. 7 pages. Someone go tell Hori to take a nap. What's up, guys? I'm here, and here we are to do a review of chapter 397 of My Hero Academia, which is known as Taking Out the Trash. And despite this chapter being shorter than Mineta, it's still heat. I do like. It has some nice stuff in it. It has some dumb stuff. Okay, I hate to say it. I may have to break my promise instantaneously. I gotta talk. I'm sorry. It's itching in my. But then again, I would be repeating myself, so I probably won't talk about it. We'll see. Let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into it. Editing me. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Greetings. What's up, guys? It is that guy with a pencil here. And fun fact, I have it on me, and I keep it on. Oh no, do I not? I have it on me, and I keep it on me at all times. But let's see. Is this chapter truly worthy, or is it too short to be worth? Is this the shortest chapter I've ever reviewed? I've reviewed a bunch of chapters in my day, literally over 100 for one series. But this may be the shortest chapter out of the many chapters I've read. Actually, no, because technically I haven't reviewed that one yet. Even then, I think that one's longer than this. I'm thinking of a chapter from another series that's about a specific character, but I think that one's 13 pages. And this is literally 7 pages. And not 7 pages of, like, spreads. There's not a single spread in the chat. It is literally just 7 pages. Y'all, we were on break for a week. If this doesn't tell you that Hori is overworked and needs rest, I don't know what will. And, like, what I'm assuming, like, there are a couple things I'm assuming is taking up his time. Now, I think there was an MHA game announced, or there's something about an MHA game that's, like, been rumored or something like that. So there's an MHA game, so he's probably making designs for that. I know a new movie is coming out with I think, like, alongside or right before or right after the release of season 7 of the anime. And I know Hori does have deep involvement with the movies, so he's likely working on that. Then he's probably still working on the anime with Studio Bones. Is it Bones? Who anime? I think it's Bones. I'm sorry, I don't watch the anime. And he obviously has the manga to work on. And here's the thing, Hori just, I'm not saying but being a mangaka is hard. So, like, I'm gonna joke about him only dropping 7 pages, but in my opinion, that's a deep sign that the man needs rest. Like an extended vacation, like an extended vacation. Give the man, like, months. Seriously, I feel like I can see why, especially if he's putting out a 7-page chapter, I can see why they're still making him produce, though, because then again, you have JJK. So JJK should be able to carry Shonen Jump on its own for a while. I'm thinking of, like, the modern, quote-unquote, big 3, the big popular animes of Shonen Jump right now. And I would say those 3 are Black Clover, MHA, and JJK. Those are the big 3 of Shonen Jump manga. And JJK is going fine. JK needs rest too. But still, I'd say, like, you could let Hori take a month break, like Gege did. Gege took a month break. Tabata took a 3-month break, and now is permanently taking 3-month breaks. But that's once again due to his health. And I think the same thing for Hori. Let him rest. Shonen Jump will not roll over and perish in a corner because MHA isn't being released. I don't know. I feel worried for him. The art and here's the thing: the art's not suffering. It's just the length of the chapters. But I think that's because Hori's pushing himself to the absolute limit. And once again, that's not the healthiest thing to do. I get it; it's his job. He signed up for this. It's a byproduct of being a very famous, very well-known, and well, I will say he's an important mangaka for modern Shonen Jump. Boruto releases monthly. Dragon Ball releases monthly. It's releasing reused content. I don't know. Have you seen me even talk about Dragon Ball in the past couple months? I haven't, because I don't care about it, because it's doing superhero. And I'll be real, I didn't even like superhero that. Like, I saw it, but I didn't like it. That's just me. That's just me being biased and not really being a fan of what that movie does. So those 2 are off the table. Then it's Black Clover, which is now being made to shift over to 3 months for, once again, by Tabata's own choices, which is good. I think he should prioritize his health, just like Hori should. Gege, Gege's not inconsistent, I wouldn't say, but Gege, once again, gotta worry about them. And Hori, I'd say MHA is the backbone of modern Shonen Jump. Like I say, the big three of the new generation would be Black Clover, JJK, and MHA. But the backbone, and I think the oldest, it is definitively the oldest out of those three in particular. It is the oldest of the new Shonen Jump big three. So it is the legacy leader. So I understand why Shonen Jump is just pushing them forward, but and here's the thing, maybe it's not even Shonen Jump, because if Shonen Jump's letting, then again, he's being shifted. But then again, I'm not sure. I need to do more research into the Tabata situation. But for Hori's case, I think he has more than enough leeway within Shonen Jump due to the impact and how important his series is to take an extended break, to let him rest a little bit, to let him get his energy back up. But I think he may do it himself, at least from what I know of Hori, based on interviews and stuff like that, and mainly a lot of other YouTube videos on the man. From what I know of him, he's very hardworking and he's very determined, most of the time to his own detriment. So I feel like it's probably partially Shonen Jump pushing him to be like, you gotta give us the goods. Give us the goods right now, Hori. And maybe partially that, but I also think it's Hori's own determination. And I understand that. Like, to a degree, I definitely understand that. Of like, no, I want to do this to push forward my work because this is what I want to do. Like, I get that. But when you're dropping 7-page chapters, man, I think something should be wrong. As All Might says, this feels wrong. Yeah, it does feel wrong. And I hope Hori recovers, man. Like, after this, I hope he takes a break. I know he wanted to make a horror manga. Hori, take some time. Take some time, man. Go complete. Go read. Go walk out. You do not, like, legitimately, I feel like Hori, you've made more than enough money that you could take some time off, bro. So I hope you do. But sorry, I spent the first part of this video kind of just talking about my worries for Hori and stuff like that. Let's actually get into chapter 397, taking out the trash. I'm about to hit the All Might voice, so let me take a sip. This feels wrong. I'm more 55 years old, you know? I shouldn't be beating up a young lad. Don't complain. Don't complain. Don't complain. Don't complain. I'm going to complain. But not that much. I'm going to compliment first. First things first. What? Like, Hori, why? Like, a lot of people don't like, well, I'll admit, for the My Hero anime, I don't get why people complain from what I see of it. But for the My Hero anime and the Record of Ragnarok anime, a lot of people complain that the animation just isn't that good. And to that I say, as a guy who happens to have a pencil, it is not impossible to animate something like this. I'm not kidding. Like, look at the detail in this one panel. You have multiple different circles for what I assume are side pauldrons. Or no, these are attachments to the cape. You have the different fragments of the cape itself. You have different levels of cross-hatching and shading within the helmet itself. You have different levels of shading in the teeth, in the gums, everything. You have the whole, like, what is this? What is the refraction of light off of this edge plus the detail in the eye? Like, it's just impossible to animate. It is impossible to make this movie. It's why I'd say JJK is something that benefits in the anime, because due to Gege's looser art style and one that is more depicted to a more chaotic flow, it allows for the animators to take a lot of leeways and have a lot of fun with what they're doing. It's why I think JJK Season 2, despite having an art style change and all that, I think it's beautiful. I think it's fantastic because Gege's manga leaves a lot open for interpretation for animators. And while Gege's manga is fantastically detailed a lot of the time, don't get me wrong, there are still, it's not Hori level detailed. Every single, how do I put this? You can take a lot of Gege's fights and put them on an animation reel, give it to an animation team, and as long as they're pictured properly, they could probably do it. Gege's fights have a really nice flow to them. This is the same thing with Sakamoto Days. That's why I think Sakamoto Days is confirmed to be getting an anime. When the Sakamoto Days anime comes out, admittedly that manga is super detailed as well, but it has enough soft flexibility to it, and a lot of fluidity to it, and a lot of stuff that's already hard locked in. A lot of the choreography is already done for you by the manga itself. It allows for more flexibility and freedom. Every single one of Hori's art pieces, darn near every single one. There's one panel later on in this chapter that I'm going to get to, and we'll get to that when I get to that. But outside of one panel, every single panel in this chapter alone, in this 7-page chapter, could go on my wall. They're all gorgeous. They are all literally Mona Lisas of manga. That's the issue. It's super hard to animate it because the level of detail is just too immaculate. It's way too good. And it's super duper hard to replicate. That's why I legit feel bad for the people who have to animate Record of Ragnarok. I say you could give Record of Ragnarok to, like, who did Fate? The Fate anime? Who did Hunter x Hunter? Studio Madhouse? Like you could give it to them and they would still struggle because of the amount of immaculate detail that is shoved into these chapters, shoved into these characters, shoved into the manga. And it's gorgeous. As a manga reader, I love it. But it's not impossible to expect animators to be able to replicate this. And especially for someone like Hori. Record of Ragnarok, it has a bit more fluidity. It is very picturesque, don't get me wrong. But even it has a bit more fluidity than MHA. The choreography of MHA, it has a lot that needs to be filled for it. Like this whole interaction right here, you're going to have to kind of loosen it up. I can see how they would animate it. They would have All Might fly around here and then do a spin kick. Like I get that. But it's all the detail that needs to be captured, especially if you want it to be at all close to on model. That's going to make this a nightmare and will always be a nightmare to work with. So I can never blame the animators of any manga ever, but especially of MHA and of Record of Ragnarok for struggling to replicate the feel of the manga because the manga is just too immaculate. Too chef's kiss. Sometimes they do go ahead to surpass it in terms of animation, but that's once again something that's only unique to the anime medium. So it's hard to like say, oh, that one scene from season 2, the tournament arc, where Todoroki throws his hand forward for the fire, that looks better than the manga. That's mainly because it's in motion and the color blur and stuff like that. There's a lot more that they could do with that scene that Hori couldn't. But even still, long rant about art and anime and animation, all that. I'm not even an animator. Like I animate some little stuff here and there, but that's a nightmare. I can never be an animator. But all that being said, I do, I will complain. I'll tell you what, I find it funny that All Might says, this feels wrong. I'm over 55 years old, I shouldn't be beating up a young lad. This feels wrong is so apt. I want you to remember, this is the strongest variation of All for One we have ever seen. Not even that we've ever seen, that has ever existed. This is the strongest variation of it. This is an All for One that Prime All Might couldn't beat, that Stars and Stripes likely couldn't beat, that War Arc Deku, Vigilante Deku likely couldn't beat, that War Arc Shigaraki likely couldn't beat, that we saw the strongest Dark Shadow, Mount Lady, Gigantomachia, all triple team and jumping the man could not beat. But All Might, the suit of armor, is able to do this. Oh yeah, All Might. This does feel wrong. But that's the only complaint I'm doing. That's the only mention I will... Well, no, it's not. There's one more mention later on the chapter that I will give of weird wonky power scaling. But I'm sorry. I know I said I wouldn't complain anymore. And I'll admit, it's not... I want to talk about it, right? Because these reviews are essentially time capsules of my thoughts. And I want my thoughts to be accurately reflected whenever I do talk about these things. So I won't talk about it. But it will not... I'll keep my promise in that it will not affect the rating of the chapter. I will not put power scaling on top. I will be rating these chapters purely by how it works the characters and how much it fits within the characters, their egos, their mindsets, all that. That's what I will mainly be judging on. So a lot of other series I will put on like a, hey, got like the power scaling on the table and be like, this doesn't make sense. But for My Hero Academia specifically, I'm going to soften up on that because it's clearly not what the story's about. You've fallen victim to the overwhelming hatred you cultivated so you could steal one for all. Taking advantage of that is what gives me a chance to win this fight. I would really love to learn any of Christopher Sapp's voices. I can't. I've tried. I've listened to countless, though admittedly, some of that is because I listen to a lot of TFS clips too. So that's probably confusing representation. But it's so hard. I can't do Vegeta. I can't do Piccolo. I can't do Shenron. I can't do any of them. The closest thing I can get is this voice, which is very deep in the chest. But that voice goes to every character that is even remotely like All Might. If you are 6 foot plus, if I'm voicing Yujiro Hanma, if I'm voicing Escanor, if I'm voicing All Might, like they all get that voice. Because it's just the deepest voice that I can muster and actually speak in. I can go lower, but it doesn't sound good. But ironically enough, speaking of TFS, you know what character I can do? No! Take his coat. No! Don't take his coat. I can do Kami. Not Kami. I can do Super Kami Guru. Why? That's the question. Why? And my Mickey Mouse is bad, but I can whip out a ha-ha on command. But I can't do voices that I've heard probably hundreds of times more. It hurts me. It hurts. As a guy who would love to be a voice actor one day, it hurts me that I can't do a Piccolo or a Goku. Well, a Goku makes sense. Even then, not really. Sean Shenmue, I get why I can't do Masako X's Goku from TFS. I get why I can't do that Goku. But very specifically, Canon Goku, Sean Shenmue, I can't whip that out. I can't whip out Christopher Sapp's Vegeta, Christopher Sapp's Piccolo, Christopher Sapp's Shenron, Christopher Sapp's literally everybody. He's like half the characters in that show. And ironically enough, it's very similar to TFS where I literally have been watching their breakdowns back to back. I literally stumbled across their Team 4-Star Bento channel and watching their breakdowns over and over and over again. How am I forgetting his name? The guy who voices all of them. The guy who voices Krillin, Vegeta, Piccolo. I didn't know he did Krillin. I was so bamboozled when I found out he did Krillin. But the guy who voices all of them can't mimic his voice at all. I have no idea how he does it. But due to that, I always end up going towards this voice. Because any deeper, and it doesn't sound proper. Like that. If I try to go any deeper than that, I can't do it. Ironically enough, I know a guy who is half my size and can do a voice 3 octaves lower than me. It's crazy to hear him go that low. But he can do it, but I can't. So, then again, he's also wants to become a professional voice actor one day. So, one day you may see us. Let's see. Is what gives me a chance to win this fight. One weird thing about this line I want to admit, though, I want to point this out. I think this is kind of... I want to see what the official translation says about this. Because what All Might says here, you've fallen victim to the overwhelming hatred you cultivated so you could steal one for all. I think the translator should have taken away so you could steal one for all. And in fact, cultivated. And I think the line should really just be, you've fallen victim to the overwhelming hatred. To your overwhelming hatred. To your overwhelming hatred. I think that should be it. Or your overwhelming hatred for me. Because remember, the whole reason Shigaraki was actually a necessity is because All For One needed someone with actual hatred. A body that had actual hatred stored up inside of it. So he could run in, grab one for all, and actually properly take it. Overwhelm the pure goodness of 7 people and tear it out. But the big issue was that he just couldn't feel hatred. I think it's a condition. Like, he just didn't really feel emotions. But I think it's very specifically hatred, because he doesn't feel like pleasure. He laughs, he enjoys stuff, but I don't think he could feel hatred. It's something that's even noted, I believe, towards the end of the First War. There's just no hatred in his heart. It's weird. But now, this same All For One, who's in this same body, one who shouldn't be influenced by Shigaraki, because the one that should be influenced by Shigaraki is in Shigaraki's body. It's not, once again, you gotta remember, this isn't like a radio connection thing. This isn't like All For One is currently in 2 bodies right now, and they're like Wi-Fi linked. No. This All For One is the original. The All For One that is inside Shigaraki is the quirk vestige from the true All For One. The quirk. Those are 2 separate things. Thusly, the hatred you cultivated so you could steal one for all is the hatred that's in Shigaraki, not in All For One. You know what I mean? So I think that is a little bit of a weird line. I get it. I get what it means in terms of like, this is the hatred that everyone has for All Might. But at first, I didn't get it. You can find that out on the live reaction. Keep it. You can have a patron for as little as $1 a month, or a member for as little as $3 a month. Get the live reaction. But due to that, that feels a little bit off kilter. That's the one thing that kind of caught me off guard about this. But we do get to see that All Might, he just continues swinging for it. Jeez. One, look at the detail, and two, look at that mouth. I put way too much emphasis on that mouth. But jeez. So did Hori. He put way too much emphasis on that mouth. Look at that jaw drop. Like it literally looks like All Might unhinged in his lower jaw. Because bro, like, let me see. I can't tell how I look from the side profile, but like, I heard, and like, no, he's got his teeth out too. Like, his lips are peeled back. Like, his lips are literally, you can see his gums. That's how far his lips are peeled back. Or maybe he just doesn't have lips. But that's how far his lips are peeled back. So he's not just like, he's like, but his jaw, like, it's straight up like his jaw has dropped and is like darn near 90 degrees parallel. So I know all the All Might fans are like, what that mouth do? That's what it do. It be yelling. But as All Might declares, this is our fate. Demon Lord, the funniest joke I've ever heard. You just sound like a knockoff Seven Deadly Sins character. Even a quirkless man can take you head on. Hori knows. He knows, and he's doing this just to mess with me. He's doing it just me personally, by the way. Okay, I'm kidding. But like, he's doing this just to mess with me. Does he like? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it. This is only a 7th chapter. This shouldn't be that long. So hopefully this won't be that long. But still, he should know. Oh, this makes no sense. He should know that something's wrong with this. like, how can you introduce some of the strongest quirks in the series, throw them against this All for One, and have them all job for him, just for All Might to come in a suit of armor and take him head on? Like, I get it. It's because of the hatred, and All for One isn't fighting optimally, but come on now, bro. Even a quirkless man can take you on. It's true, and that's the thing. It's actually working. He's actually doing damage. He's actually holding All for One in place. He's doing things. This fight should have been over in a panel. A panel, I tell you. He's legit doing better against a stronger All for One with less support than Stars and Stripes did against an incomplete Shiggy for One. Think about that. Stars and Stripes, strongest hero of the US, did worse with the help of her entire crew and an intercontinental cruise bling bling than All Might's doing now. So, like, tell me something that this doesn't seem right. I don't know. It stirs something deep within my heart. Like, and here's the thing. You ironically enough, it would probably bother me even if this was still old and decrepit All for One. I'll be real with you. It really would still bother me then, because All for One and All Might were literal deities, bro. The fact that their level of power can be replicated and even somewhat outdone by just machinery, I don't care how advanced the tech is, it feels wrong. And like, it hits a deep weird, especially considering how hyped quirks are within the narrative. It just feels so off. Like, a lot of people, and this is the thing, a lot of people always critique, like, oh, well, here's the thing, a lot of people make Quirkless Deku fanfiction because a lot of people were enamored with the concept. You know, it's what usually gets people into reading My Hero Academia. It's what got me into reading My Hero Academia a long time ago. I forget, it was on the Dragon Ball podcast years ago. It was Kagi Films, I think, trying to sell MHA, or no, vice versa. And ironically enough, Khaki Films actually is an MHA, so that's a funny thing that I think about it. I think it was either him trying to sell it to Toasty or Toasty trying to sell it to him or them trying to sell it to somebody else. The thing that got me reading My Hero Academia is the idea that a boy with no powers is going to go become a superhero in a world where everyone else has powers. That is what hooked me. That is what got me interested in My Hero Academia. That premise was dropped within like the first 2 chapters. So it's something that it's like the narrative went out of its way to tell us that you can't use machinery, you can't use skill, training power. You need to have a superpower. All Might himself says it. And the whole narrative goes on to prove him right. Quirkless Midoriya accomplishes nothing. Legitimately. Like he has some heroic moments, but he genuinely accomplishes nothing. He consistently gets kidnapped, hurt, and he puts himself in danger all the time. He needs to be saved all the time because he's quirkless. So that's why a lot of people, when they see people making like, oh, quirkless vigilante Deku, or any sort of fanfiction like that, oh, that doesn't make sense. Or like some people go the Deku's a super genius route and basically turn him into Iron Man. And people will be like, well, that doesn't make sense. You can't use tech to match quirks. And here we see that entire narrative, which I agreed with. Even as I write my own, like, basically Quirkless Deku fanfic, and What If Midoriya Was Confident. Even, I'll admit, if you're 26 minutes into a 7-page long review on chapter 397, I can tell you, he's gonna get one for all. He's gonna get it. But with that being the case, even with that, to see that contradiction made here, that a quirkless All Might, who should have booty reaction speed, booty all that because of a lack of a quirk, go up against not the strongest, but one of the strongest quirk amalgamations in history. It's crazy. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. Once again, it feels like it contradicts everything about the narrative up to this point. But I suppose that's the point of it. And that's why I'll give it a pass, because this is meant to be a contradiction. All Might, and ironically enough, he says this is our fate. All Might is fighting fate right now. And that's a big part of his narrative and Midoriya's narrative and the One for All Wielders narrative in general. Break fate. Punch through and take it with your own hands. Do not let fate control you. You control fate. That's a super massive part of their story. And I get that. So I'm letting it slide. I still just got to talk about it, though, because it's how I feel. I want to be honest with y'all. I don't want to sugarcoat things with y'all. Because I'm assuming you click on my reviews because you want to hear my opinions. Like you don't want me to just regurgitate the chapter to you. You want my in-depth thoughts on the chapter and what I think, what the chapter gets me thinking about. This is the kind of stuff the chapter gets me thinking about. So, there's that. I'll keep you distracted to prevent you from leaving. And we see All For One's like, I bet. And he proceeds to reel back. And I love this. I do like this a lot. We see All For One reel back, and air begins to collect in his palm. Specifically, I like the detail, once again. Ironically enough, I am All For One, by the way. But I have All For One. But in the center, spring-like limbs, physical boost, air cannon, rivet stab, dark ball, and light dust. 6 abilities. So spring-like limbs, likely his limbs contracting inside his arm. We just can't see it. Physical boost, that's just an extra physical gain. Air cannon, we see the air gathering in his hand. Rivet stab, we see rivet stab here, the black lightning. Dark ball, we literally see the dark balls. Light dust, I'm assuming that's light. Or you just can't see the light. Regardless, I like that all the quirks that All For One are being English. I like that all the quirks that All For One are using are tangible. And like I can understand and see them and know where they're coming from. They aren't just like, oh yeah, he's using quirks. You see? They're being used. Like, no, he's actually using the quirks, and you can tell which quirks are being used. That's nice. That's nice. And I like the list of them like that. Typically, I'm not usually a fan of this, but considering the big issue with All For One and why I think the Stars and Stripes fight is literally useless is because we had no idea how many quirks Shigaraki / All For One had at that point. We don't know what quirks he lost, what quirks he gained. It's why I literally chalk up Stars and Stripes to like a 99.9% waste of a character. But with stuff like this, we can get like understandings of what quirks he has and what they do and stuff like that. And I think that's neat. But then, boom, boom, we get hit with one of the largest SFX, the sound effects we've ever seen in the series. It's literally like a good 40% of the page right here. We see everything goes boom. As life teaches you, everything goes. As Parker from Leverage, go peep Leverage, by the way. It is a old show now. I think it's over 10 years old. Leverage is over 10 years old. Age is terrifying. Age is a terrifying thing, ladies and gentlemen. Jeez, Leverage is over 10 years old. But go peep Leverage. But the large SFX, and it tears through multiple buildings. But of course, because we gotta remember, All for One's not fighting All Might. He's fighting He's fighting Iron Might. And he's not just fighting Iron Might. He's fighting Plot Iron Might, which is the mightiest Iron Might there could ever be. So somehow, some way, as he's sitting in a building, we see that All Might mentions he's randomly combining quirks. And somehow, in the face of this onslaught, the Hercules armor, or the whatever, I forget what the armor's called already, but the armor, utility cape auto guard, Dark Shadow kicked in. So the literal Dark Shadow could not react or crush All for One in any way, shape, or form. But this metal Dark Shadow is able to tank his attacks. Neat. Like, once again, I mean, I was... It's fine. I'll rock with it. And then, you know what? I'll even give this as an excuse. The reason that this Dark Shadow shield works better than the actual Dark Shadow is because, remember, All for One specifically broke free of Dark Shadow because he fired a light attack. Dark Shadow's weak to light. So I can give a pass to All for One's attack destroying Dark Shadow because it's light-based, but not destroying this because it's metal-based. It's named Dark Shadow, but it's not actually Dark Shadow. So I'll let it slide. I actually think that's a neat part. Once again, I love it. I love the fact that this armor is working in so many references from all the kids. Once again, it feeds into the narrative of All Might as a teacher, All Might as a guide, and how he has been influenced by the kids just as they've influenced him. It's that nice dichotomy. I like it a lot. It's just, I use it on Stain or something. Use it against a more reasonable villain than Dabi, All for One. But let's see. That means Might's also working. Keep it up, Toshinori. Fan the flames of his rage. And we see, and I'll give it this. All Might is actually taking damage here, as the armor relates to him. The cape has been severely damaged. Collarbone to the left wrist pulverized. So, collarbone all the way down here, broken, pulverized, shattered, likely crushed within the metal of the armor itself. So All Might, bare minimum, if the battle ends right at the end of this chapter, he at bare minimum lost his arm. It can likely be healed by Recovery Girl. Maybe, I don't know. Like you said, he's over 55. We know how Recovery Girl's cell splitting works. But that's a thing. He is actually taking genuine real damage from these attacks. He's not just no-selling everything, which I do like. That does go to show that, you know, quirks actually are kind of useful. And they can't just be beat up by technology. But we do see that in response to this, All Might just wraps his arm up. He says, activate maximum motion assist. So essentially, he's letting the armor fight for him, which I think is smart, right? Because once again, he shouldn't really be able to react to any of this. He was only able, as All for One said last chapter, he's only able to fight the way he did because he had One for All. With that, he was able to circumvent a lot of the dangers, and he had the reaction speed and stuff like that to actually deal with someone like All for One. But now he shouldn't have it. So the computer doing it for him, I'll take it. The computer being fast enough to react to All for One is a little bit weird, but once again, it's a computer. I'll let the AI slide, whatever. And we do get to see as the arm wraps up. So he's just going to allow his arm to, ironically enough, that's a lot like the Berserker armor from aptly named Berserk. So where the armor is going to make his arm fight for him, even though it's pulverized. So which is an impressive feat of his ability to go through pain. But we see that All for One is like, taking me head on. What were you thinking? You're a worthless piece of trash. But for some reason, putting on that garbage bag has given you some confidence. Is that it? As soon as I destroy it, you're done. Unlike a person and their quirk, tools cannot surpass their limits. So, All for One brings up a fantastic point about tools being limited. Y'all remember that Remember that cyborg? Oh lord, that cyborg episode where he fought. What's that? It was the big yellow and red robot, and he surpassed his limits because he was still half human. Remember that? Yeah, he can't do that. All Might's not actually a cyborg. He's only wearing armor. So All for One brings up a fantastic point. And one critique, I have two artistic critiques. One will come later in this chapter. But one critique I gotta have, Hori, that's not 15-year-old All for One, buddy. I've met a bunch of, I remember being 15. My jawline was not that chiseled. my one complaint, it's not even like this art is bad. It's a gorgeous art of All for One. But that's not young All for One. It isn't. We know what young All for One looks like. That's not him. He is not him. He is not him. That is not him. That's my one complaint. Hori, if you're going to make him young, draw him young. That's my one request, Hori. If you're going to go out of your way to say that that's a young All for One, make it young All for One. The fact that it isn't kind of perturbs me. It doesn't take away from the chapter or anything, but it's distracting. Especially considering right at the start of the chapter, you mention that it's supposed to be All Might versus a young lad, yet you draw him like he's still in his 50s. Like, that is just old All for One. Even here, the jawline chisel, everything, nothing about it looks young. I'll give it here, he looks young here, and he looks young here. But specifically once you get here, once you get to the closer up shots of him, he looks a lot older, which I think kind of sacrifices the dynamic. But we see that All Might's like, he flashes back to a conversation he had with Midoriya a long time ago. But be careful not to rely on them too much, especially if losing the item makes you feel helpless. I've seen plenty of heroes fall for that trap. So, All Might realizes that he's kind of being a hypocrite right now. He's going back to the idea that, yeah, he's relying on this armor to even stand a chance against All for One. So once the armor's done, so is All Might. But with that being the case, he decides to keep moving forward. And he says something that I like. He says, likely just to keep goading All for One, he says, "We think alike, my friend. We think alike." Which is crazy. Like, I can't imagine calling my number one op in all of existence and all of creation my friend. But hey, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes, I guess. Like, I suppose that's really it. You don't really have a choice in the matter. And once again, he likely says my friend just to get under All for One's skin. Just to dig that needle a little bit extra deeper into him. Like, yeah, friend, you're not a threat to me. You're just an ally. You know, you're a nice guy, All for One. I feel like it's all just built to get under All for One's skin and stall him out even more. But we see that this makes All Might think of a previous time where he was going to rely on something to help take down a villain, and when he was saved by someone long ago. "Young man, were you planning on taking them all down with that pipe?" And we see young All Might, pipe in hand, ready to fight a villain. But of course, Nana came in, the current wielder of All for One at the time, One for All at the time, and she came in and saved him. And I think that's nice. It's a good, nice flashback to All Might's past and his initial encounter. And it also shows a distinct difference in Midoriya and All Might, despite them both being quirkless young men who were gifted One for All by a powerful mentor. All Might was down for violence. Midoriya, specifically if you remember, like Chapter 1 Midoriya, he never really had a plan. He ran in with his bare hands. But All Might's always been a person who will pick it up and get to work, fighting with a pipe, if that's what he can do to help somebody. And I think I like that a lot more than what was up with Midoriya, I will admit. Though, once again, the second artistic complaint that I have to mention, oh, he looks ugly. That's an ugly panel of young All Might. Something looks so wrong about it. The upper layer of teeth, the lack of proper nose definition, the way the teeth are individually serrated, not serrated, individually drawn, the detailing, his eyes everything looks weird about this All Might. It's so strange. And once again, he's 15. You drew him younger here. You gave him a more pointed jawline. Why is he so chiseled here? He's not a 15-year-old. Hori, what 15-year-olds have you been interacting with that have jawlines like this? But and the weird thing is, this is one of the most gorgeous panels of Nana that I've ever seen. Like, this is so gorgeous in terms of its artistic quality. Then you have this. Hori, what happened? Once again, I will make this a disclaimer. Not a mangaka. Will never be a mangaka. Nowhere near multiverse? I can't even say same dimension. Nowhere near the same multiversal dimensionality of Hori as an artist, and I never will be. I could probably not do this on my own, ever. But I'm going to critique it because it does look a little bit weird to me. However, with that being the case, we see that All For One declares as All Might lunges in and punches him in the face with his left, ironically enough, which is nice. All For One says, "I didn't fall for your pathetic plan, you hear me? My victory's assured. I have plenty of time to take out the trash." And we see as All For One simply flexes after lying, because dude, you're falling for the plan. Like don't play dumb. You're falling for the plan. He flexes, and All Might happily declares, "Stop making excuses. Honestly, it's embarrassing." So that's the end of chapter 397. Despite how much I complain, still a W chapter. Once again, kind of similar for the same reason I like the last chapter, but with a little bit more. I like the references to the other students. I like All Might's willingness to use manipulation against someone who was consistently manipulative, like All For One. I like the fact that, specifically because it's All Might, I like the fact that All For One's being dumb. It makes sense. The natural hatred he's built up for All Might, since All Might's the one that really ruined his life in many different ways, in more ways than All For One can count. This hatred here, it makes sense that he's being a hypocrite. He's being dumb. He's being stupid. I will let this slide. I really like that. I like that for his characterization. And a little glimpse of All Might's past and his hypothetical first meeting with Nana as a nice little cherry on top. So overall, a very W chapter. However, that's what I think. Please know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure the notification so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks include the live reaction to this very chapter. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dabi the Pencil, writing off. I would like to give a very big thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays and Rebel 4765. I'd like to give another very big thank you to our $5 patrons, Alex Ice Rose, Art Goon, DemXLND, Midnight Gemlord, Rebel 4765, and Sean. I'd like to give another very big thank you to our $10 patrons, Demokami, Joaquin, and Robbie Uchiha. I'd like to give another gargantuan thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose.